Welcome to Moorish Monday with Abdullah El Talib Mosi Bey on Magnus Crystal Pyramid YouTube, as well as the Moroccan Post Media YouTube. We're live streamed from now on two channels. I have with me 33 years next month. 33 years next month, anniversary. Taj Tarik Bey. I'm gonna start off by reading the acknowledgement.
Time flight on it.
Absolutely. In 2016, Moors and Masonry Part 1 came out, December 2016. I'm going to start off by reading the acknowledgement that I wrote for Taj Tarik Bey. I owe much gratitude to my brother Taj for opening up his library to me. He exposed me to a whole new world of light, guiding me on the journey of freedom. Brother Taj is a true liberator, breathing life into Noble Ali's insightful wisdom. In order to change the people, you must change their literature. So I humbly present this light with the guidance of the great cosmic mother to humanity. Thank you, Brother Taj, for inspiring me to write.
Right on.
So I want to start off with that. So those who are just joining us, we have Taj Tarik Bey. The title is Restoring the Knowledge of the Moorish Connection to Masonry. Before we dive deep into it, we'll slowly get into the title, because I want the people to know our history. A lot of people don't know our history because you got a lot of new people, 5 years or 2 years or 3 years. They don't know our history. So I want the people to,
in the context of that, they have to know the motive as to why those who have conquered the Western Hemisphere have hidden it.
No, I'm talking about the history between me and you.
Oh yeah, well that too, yeah.
I've done when I say, but I always be clear. So let's be clear. When I say our history, I'm talking about my history with Taj Tarik Bey.
Yeah.
Then because that'll tie right into the topic.
Yes.
So we're gonna get that's why I started by reading what the acknowledgement that I wrote for him in my Moors and Masonry Part 1 book.
Yeah.
Now, next month, I mentioned 33 years. Next month will be our 33rd anniversary.
Yep.
I met Taj Tarik Bey and Jimmy's Barbershop in Camden, New Jersey. This was a Friday early evening, because I was working in Trenton, New Jersey. So it was about 5 o'clock, because I was working from maybe about 5:30. And Taj held classes at his house on Friday nights and Sunday afternoons. So he came in wearing a brown suit with Moorish fez, and a leather band with what they call I Self-Law Master. And he had brown shoes. And this was in October 1993. So he told me that he teaches classes at his house on Fridays and Sundays. And I said, I'll come by tonight. So I went by that night, and I had to get up early the next morning because I was being trained to do, and I had to go to New Brunswick. I had to go to New Brunswick because I was part of a training. We dealt with AIDS education, and I was part of the training. And I was a side gig that I was doing, and I was getting paid for the training and everything. And so I actually left his house about maybe 12 or 1 o'clock. Rashida was there too. Rashida when I left, Rashida was the only one that remained. Yeah. So anyway, so I want to delve into our history together so people can know that. Now, Moors and Masonry Part 1. Moors and Masonry Part 1. And so Taj is connected to this. Now, the title, let's look at the title, Moors and Masonry Part 1. The title, Moors and Masonry is Taj Tarik Bey's title. Taj and I put out the Al Moroccan Star newspaper.
Yes.
In the spring of 2001.
Yes.
The third issue, which was the autumn issue of the Al Moroccan Star newspaper that came out in the autumn of 2001, the feature article, which means on the front page, was the Taj's article titled Moors and Masonry. The bottom part was the bottom part. The bottom part I have on Moors of this book, Moors and Masonry Part 1, was the bottom part of the article. This was the bottom part of the article. Moors and Masonry, his Taj's article. When we had Taj received a written response, a critique. We had a Mason, European Mason, from a Moorish, from a Masonic institution, and Taj helped me out with this, a Masonic institution in Silver Springs, Maryland. In Silver Springs, Maryland, it was a written letter with the letterhead critiquing Taj's article, Moors and Masonry. I don't remember everything that was written. Taj will help me out. He mentioned it was that it was convoluted. I remember the word convoluted.
Yes.
As you and I discussed the word convoluted.
Yes.
Can you go into that, Taj? Do you remember any details about the response letter?
Well, basically, as a matter of fact, before I came down, I was actually looking for the paper because I had it.
I was trying to,
in the stock so we could go actually from it, because we actually posted the letter in the paper.
Yeah, we did. And the following issue. We posted a letter in the following issue. Yes, we did. And Taj's response. Absolutely.
And the nature was of even me critiquing his response was he's assuming that we came from their controlled club, not knowing that we are the
descendants. Yeah, there you go.
And also from the concept of their Freemason order, that it itself is convoluted, to be honest with it. You know, although we weren't critiquing them, we were just talking the Moorish, the ancient Moabite history. And as you already know, from the operations of the popes of Rome and the corruption of the priesthood, that they've actually corrupted Masonry, if you get the point. And they were assuming that we came from their order, i.e. like maybe Prince Hall or something like that. Assuming that we were under that influence when actually we were coming from 360, if you get the point. Coming from the origin of astrology and the knowledge of cause and effect and the higher self and the lower self principle, and the fact of that the power of the moon and sun is contained actually in woman, who is our mother, and in sons, etc., and reflective of the earth. And having that knowledge, that's the truth of Masonry. And of course, when the priesthood, with their corruption, hid that and made a dogma system out of Masonry, which is what comprises the dogmatic religions today. And his assumption was we were coming from that perspective. And so we actually put them into place relative to that.
Yeah, it was well written. One section, Taj, that I actually found online was the section with Ben Bay's Fez with the Mystic Order of Veil Prophet, the chant around. Someone had actually posted just that part of the newspaper, that page. And I remember I saw to whom does the fez belong? So Taj broke down the history to whom was one of the subsections of the article, Moors and Masonry. To whom does the fez belong?
It belongs to the
so that's what we
know about, not to them. Their position is club. Our position is birthright.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And our position is cultural, where theirs is control purposes and allegorical terms just to hide the history and to rule over humanity rather than liberate humanity. We have totally different motives.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you remember about the letter, Taj? Or even your article, I'm trying to, and I was preparing for this.
Well, remember, basically, the article was actually from older notes, about 10 years old. Because remember, we used to, when we planned to do the paper, we heavily edited. Remember that? As a matter of fact, we sit up all night, fall asleep on the floor.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's yes. I remember the first issue. The first issue came out. We actually that's what I said. People need to know. We talk about our history too, because it ties right in.
Yeah.
The first issue was the Easter. It was the Easter issue written by Taj. Taj wrote the first three main feature articles. It was the Easter because it came out during the vernal equinox period. And we actually the Moorish Order Roundtable. Taj is the founder of the Moorish Order Roundtable. He established that in 1982. The Moorish Order Roundtable hosted a conference. We hosted a conference here in Philadelphia, downtown Philly. What's that? The name of that hotel?
At the Marriott.
No, it wasn't the Marriott. It was near the Marriott.
Yeah, but like 13.
Across the street from Dunkin' Donuts, where Dunkin' Donuts used to.
Yeah.
Yes. No, where Wawa used to be. It was a Wawa. Now it's a Dunkin' Donut. Yes. It was it's directly across the street from there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
As a matter of fact, it's right next to the convention.
Yeah, right next to the convention. Begins with a W. I can't recall what it is. Well, anyway, we had people fly in, take the trains, and that was the time we were working on the first issue. We actually was trying to get the first issue done in time, but we did not. But what we did do is that we made a poster-sized copy of the first page. So we actually, because Taj and I, Reverend Chris Collins taught Taj and me how to lay out the newspaper using the boards. And so we actually laid out before Ross Bavaya came on and did it on Microsoft Publishing. Taj and I did the first issue together, laying out the boards. And that's what Taj is talking about, staying up all night. Right, he's right on that. So we were trying to get the first issue done before the conference, but we didn't. So what we will do is that we took the board. I took the board to Kinko's, and they actually made a poster size because we want to let the people know that we had a newspaper coming, and so we actually it was more effective to actually show it. So if we didn't have newspaper, we actually showed the front page, a poster size. So I wanted to tie that in, and the conference was well attended. We had Moors from different parts of the country, California, North Carolina, of course, Philadelphia, Trenton, South Carolina, Alabama. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Texas. Yep. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I remember, I think that's when I think Fred was there. Remember Fred used to play the bass?
Yes. Yeah. Fred came. Fred was. Yes. Fred came from California. He was a member of the Gap band, not the original member, but he was at that time we met him. He was a part of the Gap band, and we actually had met. Yep, he actually how we met Fred is Taj's books. Taj's books. The Moors Define. For the Moors, the Moors Define, Moorish civil relations concept, the Black Codes of 1724, and I can't remember the book that you and I worked on together, Breaking the Chains of Slavery, the Moors Rise. There you go. Yeah, Breaking the Chains of Slavery, the Moors Rise to Civil Death. Right, that Taj and I have compilation of articles in there. Taj also showed the black codes. Yeah, you just showed the black codes. So I worked with Taj on these books with brother Kamara, but Kamara back in 1994, 94 and 5. Yeah. So those so I actually sent those books. I sent about 40 of those books to Essewan Bookstore in Oakland, California.
Yep.
And that's where it was Essewan Bookstore in Oakland, California, and another one. Well, that's where Fred bought the books. And Fred, you know, contacted me. And that's how we connected with Fred.
Yes, yes. Yep.
And Fred actually, we would actually send Fred, you know, bundles of about a bundle of the newspaper, our Market Star newspaper, and Fred would actually in his travels with the Gap Band, he would actually pass out the papers after his show in the parking lot.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is the history. People don't know our history. This is what I was talking about, our history together.
And then, of course, you know, a lot of the celebrities, which we won't name, you know, for the sake of their privacy, also was calling me and you. And also, remember Mukesh from Liberia?
Yeah, I remember.
Yes, from Liberia. So that really spread a lot when you sent the papers out to Cali. That's how a lot of people in Cali got familiar with the Round Table.
Absolutely. Now we're gonna go a little back. I put out I put out a newsletter called the Moorish Civil Letter.
Yes.
And so Taj was inspirational for me to, you know, before Moors and Masonry Part 1, the book, I put out the Moorish Civil Letter back in the summer of 1995.
Yes.
And it was 8.5 by 11, double-sided. And I actually was distributing it, came out of my own pocket to make copies and just distributed and putting in the City Hall, fill it up, the New York Cabinet City Hall and different municipal buildings and so forth. I would pass them out downtown Camden, you know, at the bus stop. Well, I was at the time I was working as a supervisor of foster care parent in Philadelphia. And one of my foster care parents who since transitioned, Sister Nana, she said, Abdullah, you need to get a P.O. box. How people are going to contact you? Because I didn't have a P.O. box. So I said, all right. So I got a P.O. box. So 2 or 3 months after I did the issue and put the P.O. box on there, I was receiving letters from brothers in prison. From Wisconsin. I got over 2. I still have the letters.
We got to do this again because what we want to find some of the papers. And
I still have I think I have 1 or 2 in the storage of the or I think I have all the issues in the storage.
Yeah. But
I do have the letters. I have the letters. Now we're going to tie the newspaper to the letters. This is how that's why I'm tying this up. My newsletter, 1995, and receiving letters from brothers and sisters in prisons in Wisconsin, Michigan, was upper state Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Ohio, Michigan, Illinois. And we got off 200 letters. So so this is where this ties right into the newspaper, because when the newspaper came out, we also sent books. So the books that Taj put up, it was 2 others. We also sent books, not with the spiral bind, because you couldn't send that to the prisons. We had to send it without the spiral bind. But we will also send books, because they were requesting literature. People, this is what I'm saying, that I know that literature can have an effect. That's why I want to tie this in, because the brothers and sisters who wrote us was writing for literature, and then they would send us money orders. They would correspond with us to let us know their progress. They actually was encouraged through our literature to start study groups in the prisons.
It was about
Taj read all the letters. Every time I got the letter, I was
2 or 3 that I remember, and it was actually a well-known prisoner who actually used information to get out of prison. Remember that?
Yeah, they used one of the books. Yep, I remember that, and we end up meeting him. Absolutely.
Yep.
And then when the paper came out, when the Albemarle Star newspaper came out, then we started sending newspapers.
Yep.
That's how that all ties in. So you talk about 2000, 1995, 96, and the paper coming out in 2001, and we still corresponded with them and sent them papers 20, 30, and they were able to expand their outreach in the prisons.
Yep.
And this is from letters, because they would constantly correspond with us on their development of their progress and development.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, remember, we used to get so many boxes of letters that we didn't even have time to read them all. Remember?
Yeah, they were coming in. They were coming in for, absolutely. So,
as a point of reference too, before we go on, one of the things I wanted to do in relationship, because we already know that Masonry has been misrepresented to the public, and so I wanted to. One of the chapters I wanted to read from the Book of the East, the Council of the Seven of the World.
Oh, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. This is because while we're on this subject matter, and because of the changes that are taking place geopolitically and around the world, it is also, we'll just give a little bit, because although it's not the subject directly, because the people are going to have to learn some things. So we are going to talk about part of what got us to where we are right now, as far as the negative, to counter the negative. This is Ministries of the Silent Brotherhood of the East, Chapter 8, the Council of the Seven of the World. In every age since time began, but 7 sages lived. At first of every age, these sages meet to note the course of nations, people, tribes, and tongues, to note how far toward justice and love the race has gone, to formulate the code of law, religious postulates, and plans of rule best suited for the coming age. An age had passed, and lo, another age had come. The sages must convene. Now Alexandria was the center of the world's best thought. And here in Philo's home, the sages met. From China came Mengste. From India, Vidyapati came. From Persia, Caspar came. And from Assyria, Asbina came. From Greece, Apollo came. Matheno was the Egyptian sage, and Philo was the chief of Hebrew thought. The time was due. The council met and sat in silence 7 days. And then Mengste said, the wheel of time has turned once more. The race is on a higher plane of thought. The garments of our fathers wore have given out. The cherubim have woven a celestial cloth, has placed it in our hands, and we must make for men new garbs. The sons of men are looking up for greater light. No longer do they care for gods hewn out of wood. They seek for Allah not made with hands. They see the beams of the coming days and yet comprehend them not. The time is ripe, and we must fashion well these garments for the race. And let us make for men new garbs of justice, mercy, and love, that they may hide their nakedness when shines the light of the coming days. And Vidyapati said, our priests have all gone mad. They saw a demon in the wilds, and at him cast their lamps, and they are broken up, and not a gleam of light has any priest for men. The night is dark. The heart of India calls for light. The priesthood cannot be reformed. It is already dead. Its greatest needs are for graves and funeral chants. The new age calls for liberty, the kind that makes each man a priest, enables him to go alone and lay his offering on the shrine of Allah. And Casper said, in Persia, people walk in fear. They do the good for fear to do the wrong. The devil is the greatest power in our land. And though a myth, he dandles on his knees, both youth and age. Our land is dark, and evil prospers in the dark. Fear rides on every passing breeze and lurks in every form of life. The fear of evil is a myth, is an illusion and a snare, but it will live until some mighty power shall come to raise the ethers to the plane of light. And when this shall come to pass, the Magian land will glory in the light. The soul of Persia calls for light. That's timely for now that all the systems are collapsing, including the misunderstanding of what Masonry actually is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that for the interest of the title, because we know that many people have never been taught the truth of Masonry. You know, their concept is what they've been told in mainstream news. So I just wanted to drop that from a metaphysical point of understanding where they are in this cycle now, where all those institutions are collapsing.
Yeah, when people talk about Masonry, that there's conscious Moors as well as unconscious Moors, they get so bogged down with the meetings, you know,
they make statements without substance.
With no substance, you know, different personalities that are part of the various orders, and not really with the science, because they don't know it. They know it's they do these bad things, and they don't get caught with the actual science of it.
Yes,
because they don't know it. Yeah, so you're absolutely right.
Yeah, as an interjection, I just wanted to, if this can be seen, you can't see because
good.
Now on the top of the Fez, as an example,
read what you have on there.
No, I just little notes that I had.
I can't see it. So what the audience?
So I'm not even going to try to.
Oh, don't even try. All right, no problem. All right, I got you.
Because of the reflection of light.
All right.
But anyway, just like on the top of the Fez, where people they see the perforations on the top of the Fez with the 3 circles and 4 corners, and of course the 3 and 4 is 7, and the crown or the circle at the top is circle 7. Now that's Cosmo, and you know Cosmo is represented by crescent and a star, which represents the universe, and of course the finial, which is also like an umbilical cord.
Yeah.
And the ball, yes, and the ball of mud called Earth, yes, and the perforations that you see, the first part of the perforations is 9.
Can you see it?
Yes. Lift your head up a little bit, back up a little bit. No, backward a little bit. Yeah, right. Back a little bit. Back a little bit. No. Move back a little bit. Move back a little bit.
I put the phone up on my.
Yeah, right there.
Right there.
Back so the people can see it. Yes. Now you see the perforations. The first is 9 in the center circle. Second is 12 in the middle circle. And the outer circle is 18. And so you have 9 and you have 12, and you have 18, and 1 and 8 is 9. So the 9 cosmic months of man's birth in the womb of the universe, then the 12 perforations representing the 12 constellations in this particular solar system. And then, of course, your 18 is your dual pyramid, which represents the hex alpha, the cause and effect, and the rule of law and nature as above, so below, presented with the geometric formulation of hex alpha, which is an insignia of the Moorish nation. So that represents the cosmos. And then you have the 4 corners, which represents the 4 corners of the earth. Then when this is presented in institutions of erudition, you'll have a square, and it'll call a mortar board. And the reason it's called a mortar board because you use mortar to do stonework. And of course, the ancient history at Midgard of the human family is written in stone. That's where you have all your ancient artifices built in stone, and that's called Masonry. And then in a metaphysical relative to character, you know, with the compass and the square, etc., you deal with the metaphysicality of the character of man on that same principle. So you have not only the building of houses and temples and edifices that present the history of humanity on the planet, those same principles in the abstract are used to build character. And logically, with the knowledge of the higher self and the lower self, when you're dealing with the cause and effect in nature, for those who don't understand or have no knowledge of the lower nature in the universe, or what they refer to as evil, without knowing that or knowing how things operate, and you're dealing with the conjunctions, the squares, etc., in the movements of the planets, etc. When you have a knowledge of that, you guide yourself accordingly so it doesn't affect you. And this is where the knowledge of the universe comes in, and that's the original principles of religion, which is later contaminated by the priesthood, which is why I read that chapter. And this is what has caused a lot of the evils that are suffering, that the people are suffering on the planet. And this is also why many people have a negative concept of Masonry, not knowing what Masonry is, and not knowing that the priesthood corrupted it. And that don't confuse the two, that because the priesthood corrupted it. And of course, the knowledge of the universe belongs to every man, woman, and child. And in later lessons, you know, you can give some more details in that, and actually what it is, because that's what's going to be used to actually clean the planet up.
Well, those who are just joining, this is Taj Tarik Bey. Click that like button, subscribe button, let people know that we're on. Share this to your social media. To get my book, Moors and Masonry Part 1, as well as my other books, you see the website, my website, strolling across the stream, moorsandmasonry.org.
Do you have the rest of the books in front of you right now?
I have the Venus book.
Show what you have so that people can see some of
I didn't take this out the package.
Yeah.
The How Moon and Venus rule. All right.
And then people need to understand why you always have star systems in all your ancient philosophies.
And let me take one out the pack.
Yeah.
I actually had a brother break my series broke this down. This is my How Venus and Moon rule. My etymology, vocabulary, the Masonic complement square and the connection, the measurement, the timekeeping, the Illuminati and the illumination of the mind, and Moors and Masonry Part 2, which I have come in the mail, another batch. Those who go, once again, go to my website, moorsandmasonry.org. So for those who are just doing this, hit the like button. If you have questions, put your questions in the chat. We'll get to the questions a little later. but we will be fielding questions, so you can put questions in the chat, and we fielding questions a little later. We just want to get more delved into the topic. The topic today is the restoring the knowledge of the Moorish connections to Masonry. This is being aired also on the Moroccan Post Media YouTube page. And I also want to give a great shout out to Brother Hank for offering this platform to me for the past 20 months.
Right on. And also, you know, as a reminder of the people, the number 0 to 9, the alphabet, which the people know as the alphabet, dealing with A to Z, etc., trigonometry, etc., and astrology, as noted, although it goes into more detail, comprises actually what is known as Moorish science, i.e., which is Masonry. So, in a word, in a short, for the everyday being who may have miscomprehensions or misunderstandings of Masonry, you can say that Masonry is cosmo or astrology.
Yeah, that's astrology, astronomy, absolutely.
That's, you know, in other words, without long explanation.
Oh yeah, of course.
Straight out. That's for the listeners, because you already know most of them has been misinformed.
Absolutely.
And that has to do mostly because of the corruption of those who have used it to govern or to rule over the people, but have not been honorable to its principles.
To subjugate. I won't say govern. I will say subjugate.
Yeah, you're right. You know, so I wanted to bring that up. And also, I wanted to, because this was very effective, because remember, you spent a lot of time.
Compilation of articles written by Taj and me.
And yourself.
Back in 1995.
Yes. And this was more or less, because most of the stuff was written before then, but this was a compilation.
Yeah, it was written before that, exactly. Written before then, we actually compiled it, because it actually, you know, I had written some of the articles for the Moroccan Moorish Civil Letter newspaper, and we actually compiled it when we worked with Brother Kamara. Brother Kamara actually did the layout, and then we worked on that for, I think, 5 days a week. Those books, we worked on those books 5 days a week over the period of 7 months.
Yes, and people need to know also, which we've mentioned many times, for a matter of the timing, and because we wouldn't compromise, which is also why we published them ourselves. And for the most part, they don't know, but I'm just saying it's for the people that for the most time, for years, we sold these at cost and many times at loss just to get them out there. And
there were 10 notes. We sold them for 10 notes a piece. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes it costs us that and more to get them printed, just to get them out there. Yeah. You know, and I was thinking even before that, when some of my other earlier works, when brother, we'll start with a letter G, you know, out of due respect. An old friend of mine, when they offered me to go up to Quakertown, Pennsylvania, and they offered me fiat with a pre-contract with stipulations later that at that time totaled around 250,000. That was in '89 to modify, and I wouldn't modify. I wouldn't sell out, you know. And then based on what they wanted me to remove the Moorish history and talk the black stuff. And I didn't remember I told you about that. Yeah. And this is why, so a lot of people who are not aware of the history, that's why these were done in ring binder, because we did it ourselves rather than sell out. Yeah. So it's a lot of history, and we spent a lot of sleepless nights. And that's
yes.
Yes, and a lot of people over the years come and go, in which I told you before, earlier, I said, don't take things personal, because you're going to be pressured from interior and exterior. You know what I mean? Because this is bigger than us, really, and bigger than what most people think. But a lot of things that we talked about 30 years ago, you see them manifesting in these last 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. You haven't done so. Let people know that we're live and direct. Share this on your social media platforms. Share that link on the platform. We got a good hour and 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
We heating up. We heating up.
I want to read also I think was like during that year too. One of my poems. Remember we used to put a lot of our
Taj wrote poems. Like he wrote a poem for my stepfather. As my mom too. Taj wrote the poem that was in my stepfather's obituary. And also we had to wrote a poem for my mom when my mom transitioned. He sure did.
And this one is from the 18th of November of 96. And this is Dream Dancer. And this is from the lesson book that you spent all your time compiling. Remember that when you were compiling the notes, that's your.
Oh yeah, yep.
And then I saw her, warm dark eyes, riding across the winds of time, royal skin of earth in tone, hair atomic spirals rolling through the electric skies. Would I, if I could befriend her, interest her enough to stay, to spare a moment contemplating just a wisp of what she knows? Does she even see me? Does my seeking oft offend her? I move and cannot bridge the distance, while she gently glides in glory. Speechless, yet she molds a language only thought can read the lessons that she weaves with love's consistence. If I could master love and win her, still she cannot linger here with me, her true unworthy caller, reaching while she moves in mystery. Tender strength resides within her. The songs she sings need highest learning and highest hearing, sweet perfumes of life endearing. But she leaves when I am nearing. Will I ever touch her face? Pause she did with glances to me, light and love and time went through me. Then she smiles as if she knew me, paralleled in age's lace. While I joy in her attention, graceful gains in understanding thoroughly, she speaks in symbols, words, and sights in mind dimension, views of angles, lunar space, gatherings of sun's reflections on magnetic Venus moving. Could it be? Is she approving? Oh, but my imagination speaking presence at her door, vainly courting her affection, finding secrets I explore, never ending tides of thinking, yet I am unconscious of. In her bosom I find comfort, wisdom, sweet, elusive love. Wisdom, sweet, elusive love. That's one of the poems.
Yeah, his poems were, greatly appreciated by many people.
And some of the things we'll share, and we'll go over because some of these things that we actually use when and one of the values that that Brother Abdullah presented in the compilation of articles and documents from the Al Moroccan Star. This is one of the journals of the House of Representatives. Remember that? 1789.
Yeah, yeah.
1798. Yeah. So this is from the Archives of History from South Carolina Department of Archives of History.
Oh yeah, yeah. So, yes, yes.
You remember that?
Yeah, yeah. Read that.
Yes. So this is January 4, 1798 to 28 January 1798. The views of slaves and free blacks are rarely found in the petitions. Blacks were often the subjects of petitions submitted by whites. But in one unusual case, 4 former slaves petitioned the House for clarification of their legal status. The ex-slaves, Francis, Daniel, Hammond, and Samuel, had been subjects of the Emperor of Morocco when they were captured by an African king. They were delivered to a Captain Clark on the promise that he would take them to England, where the Moroccan ambassador would ransom them. But instead, they were sold in South Carolina as slaves. Eventually, the 4 men purchased their own and their wives' freedom. They now wanted to be assured that if accused of a crime, they would be tried as subjects of a foreign nation by the Court of General Sessions, rather than as free blacks by the magistrates and freeholders' court. The House decided that the men were citizens of Morocco and thus not subject to laws governing free blacks. Introduction. A petition was presented to the House from sundry free Moors, subjects of the Emperor of Morocco and residents of this state, praying that in case they should commit any fault amenable to be brought to justice, that they, as subjects to the prince in alliance with the United States of America, may be tried under the same laws as the citizens of the state would be liable to be tried, and not under the Negro Act, which was received and read, House Journal. And one of the things that makes that so poignant and important is for the sake of the hidden history, that is not told about the history of our people here, and not comprehending or understanding the classifications of courts in the Constitution relative to Article 3, Section 2, dealing with public ministers, ambassadors, diplomats, and consulars. And those are the lawful courts. And logically, that status, the blacks would, having in the black status, they would have no standing in court. And being Moors, then they had the same right of protections that citizens under the Constitution. And this is where I think a lot of people misunderstand the rule of diversity relative to, the controversy between citizens of same state, different states, and of foreign states, and not understanding the also the motive for the corrupt persons holding the people to subjugation, why they don't teach jurisprudence, and why they have substituted the 14th Amendment operations for Article 3, Section 2, the diversity for protections of the Aboriginal and Indigenous people of the land. And I just wanted to bring that up because that immediately invoked the consular venue, constitutional. And the interesting thing that many of the people aren't even aware of it, even though it's right there in the Constitution. So that makes it vital, because we often use that over the years. Remember when we got some of the people who got their concepts together, and who also one of the brothers, respectfully, you already one of his name starts with a P. I'm just so because he's not here. That got him he got himself out of jail with. This was one of the arguments that he made. And so the court had to admit that they had no jurisdiction under the corporate state. And that was part of his argument of him getting released, invoking the diversity. So that's pretty good. And one of the other things that I wanted to because I think this was one of the ones that you often use when you were instructing people when you were also dealing with the consulate. The Plessy versus Ferguson case, remember that? Yes. That's 1896. The incident concerning Homer Plessy, who had been residing in the state colony of Louisiana at that time, and that he brought a first-class ticket to travel from New Orleans to Covington. Remember that? Now, so that's in Louisiana. And he took a seat in the coach reserved for the citizens of the United States of America or any other free people. And of course, the ruling in that case was deliberate test of the constitutionality of Louisiana state statute requiring separate but equal railroad accommodations for the contracted citizens. English at that time only presented for the English mail, along with other free people and the branded Moors who still remain property of the European families. Of course, that's the manumission stuff. So the Justice Henry B. Brown said the state statute did not infringe on constitutional authority over commerce. In the present case, no question of interference with interstate commerce can possibly arise, since the East Louisiana Railroad appears to have been purely a local line, and both its terminal within the state, and that's the Plessy versus Ferguson, 1896. And some of these things that you chose to put in this lesson book, over the years, many people have used a lot of these things to actually challenge the jurisdiction of the corporate state's courts, and have been successful. And the interesting thing, as you already know, with many of the letters that we've received over the years, whenever people have used that, they would never publish that. They would only publish the negative. Remember that? But so I wanted to interject that, because it was very, very appreciative with many people who have used a lot of the articles that you put in this particular lesson book. So I just wanted to throw that in there for the point of reference. And a lot of that is coming up now because of the problems that they're having with their bond system, since many of the bonds that have been issued on the stock market from Seed and Company from New York are being rejected around the world, and a lot of those things that seem to many people irrelevant because of the time period, 17 and 1800s. Those cases are actually presently operative, and this is where they're having problems with some of the court systems, where the magistrates with their different political views are countering Trump with the so-called deporting some of the immigrants. So some of these same things are being brought up today. And the interesting thing is that the fact that they've hid a lot of these principles over the years are now coming to haunt them. You know, is how you say some of the things that they've been doing for political gain among the battles of the parties, of the Republican Democrat parties, which is the Cotton Whigs and the Conscience Whigs. The battles that they're having with each other right now are backfiring, because a lot of these things have to be dealt with, and they're trying to avoid it. But these same principles apply today, with them trying to get deport a lot of people.
Hey Todd, I'm looking at these comments and questions right now. We at the hour mark. We got a lot of comments, man.
Yeah,
I mean, They're flowing in. I'm strolling. Just continue talking, and I'm gonna stroll through these comments. I'm gonna go to the beginning, and I'm going to see.
And as an interjection, while you're going with that, I want to read this section in where you interjected the unconstitutionality of the 14th Amendment.
Yes.
Old stuff just remind you. The unconstitutional 14th Amendment in 1868 AD, which constitutes 1288 MC, the colonial governing powers of the Union State Society, styled as the United States of America, confirmed citizenship to the indigenous dark and light olive Moorish Moroccans of North America, Northwest Africa, or Mexico. The colonial governing powers conferred citizenship without the Moors' mutual agreement and without the Moors having any of their governmental officials in their Moorish nationality representing them as a free and sovereign nation of people, as the ex post facto 14th Amendment was being legislated in 1868 AD, conjoined as 1288 MC. And furthermore, the Moors did not sign a treaty with the United States of America agreeing to be citizens of the Union State Society. The mutual interchange at law between two or more sovereign nations is and constitutes a treaty. And as a matter of fact, no treaty exists wherein the Moors agreed to be citizens of the foreign juristic United States of America. However, the Moors are part and parcel of the government, yet the Union States jurisdiction deals with the European side of the nation, which is states citizens. And the law of discourse between the European side of the nation, United States of America, and the Moorish side of the nation, the Great Seal Continental United States Federal Republic, is the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between the United States of America and His Imperial Majesty of Morocco, January 1787, enforced through the Code of Laws of the United States of America of a general and permanent character. And the English male is the only contracted citizen member of the United States of America, excluding all others, even European women, English women. And the Constitution is a mutual contractual agreement among English males and their posterity. Upon examination, it becomes clear that the surnames of the Declaration of Independence, Articles of Confederation, and the Constitution are of English descent. And the Moors ordained the foreign juristic United States of America for English males and their posterity. See the preamble of the Constitution. Examine the two entities. The United States refer to the Great Seal, Continental United States Federal Republic, and the United States of America. In referring to the European nations and the act of the Moors ordaining the foreign juristic United States of America gave the 13 colonies the legitimacy to settle and to operate in the 13 colonies on the land. Now, this act brought the states' colonies within the federal government, the Great Seal, making the federal government the Great Seal, and the states one through the separate but interactive jurisdictional affairs. And each of the 13 states agreed to surrender some of their sovereignty to a limited capacity to the federal government, i.e. the Great Seal. And the Europeans came together to form the United States of America and adopted the Constitution from the Moors' Equa Confederation. The federal Constitution and the state Constitution are in harmony. That's just an interjection, and I thought that would be of interest, because that's being used and is kind of backfiring on them, although they won't put that in the mainstream news. That's one of the problems that they're having with trying to deport many of the people that the cottonwigs brought in under the Biden administration, because the fact of the matter is many of them are Americans.
Yeah, I'm looking at the we got somebody that got about 30. So I mean, it was like about 30 or 40. I'm just trying to get other people. If you have any questions, type your. I see a lot of comments. Cynthia does have all the papers. Taj, Cynthia's on.
Islam
Peace, Sister Cynthia.
Islam, Cynthia. Give us hugs.
Sister Abundance Child is on.
All right.
King Simon's on.
All right.
Yeah, King Simon's on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I see a lot of comments. I tell you, we have one brother that put in about 40 times different. I'm just trying to get other people. Islam, divine. It's the comments. I don't see any questions at this time.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting how a lot of these things that have been ignored are actually being dealt behind closed doors right now. That's one of the reasons why I chose to read some of the articles that you put in, some of the sections, because it's actually a lot of this is going on now. And although it's not in mainstream news, and this is one of the reasons, like that magistrate put a stop hold on Trump, I think the other day, in relationship to that, and also declared the sanctions as unlawful. Now they're challenging the separations of power. So all of those things are coming up. Now, where they affect us is to the degree that they're controlling our economies, and this has much to do with why it's important for our people to come in unity, so that we can present for ourselves, so that they don't, bag us into the Negro Act with their U.S. citizen operations.
Yeah, I don't. Peace, Taj, and Brother Dula. Question. I don't see a question though. Sister Bacola's on. Islam, Sister Bacola.
Islam.
She has Bacola has a question. All right, so Bacola had, all right. Of the deportation of agreed territory in Africa, is this another Monroe Doctrine?
That's part of the problem that they're having, because remember when they with the Whittemore Convention at Philadelphia, one of the things that one of the corruptions and misinformations and misrepresentations that have been practiced since 1854 is them referring to their corporation operations as quote unquote America, and then using that as a claim of sovereign right of regulating citizenship, which in itself is a fraud, because America is the continent, North, Central, South. And keep in mind, other than the Panama Canal, because most people, because of the way it's not taught to the people, they're not thinking in their mind the reality of the geography that North and South America comprises one continent in actuality, although it's taught in history as being separate, is one continent, and all the people coming from the South are Americans. And the ones who are arguing in relationship to the Naturalization Act without talking Nationalization Act are actually foreign Europeans who are parties to the United States Corporation Company, who are operating on the land but are not the real people of the land. It's a contradiction. And even though they're not talking about it behind closed doors, this is one of the problems that they're having. And it's interesting. Some of it probably might slip out, but it'll be a good study for people of all the different tribes here relative to their rights that have been abridged in relating to what the problems that the Europeans are having right now with the immigrants.
We have abundance. Has a let me if a question. If we don't declare a nationality, the court presumes you are a 14th Amendment corporate
That
U.S. citizen. That's the
that's
state. Yeah.
yes, yes. It's called assumed jurisdiction because under international principles, remember, although we're under occupation, they're still obligated to deal with the people, and so they classify the people and misclassify the people. And so, point of it is, if you don't know who you are, you don't know who you're not. And without a declaration of nationality or making that distinction that you're from the tribes of the land with a name and nationality, they're soon to be under 14th Amendment because they're going to regulate one way or another. One of the frauds that they have created was by covering up the proper jurisdiction of both Constitution and treaty, which comprises the judicial powers of the United States, i.e., so you're dealing with treaty, ordinance, and Constitution as one document. And this is one of the reasons why they introduced falsely the 14th Amendment person to hide the fact that they corrupted the history in order to claim the land from the people and create the false narrative of the so-called Black diaspora, which is total fiction. So that's what they're dealing with. And so one of the things that's happening that's not in the mainstream news, but for those who know jurisprudence, know that one of the problems that they're having with deporting people, that most of the people that have come to the North are Americans of the South. And so in order to actually enforce the law lawfully, they have to enforce Naturalization Act. And keep in mind, Ulysses Grant modified it in 1870. And this has a lot to do with the political contradictions that are coming into place with the Horace Greeley operations from the New York newspaper tycoon when they met in Philadelphia. And when the hybrid European started officially, although they were doing it loosely to steal the birthright of the Aboriginal people, when they originally started calling themselves white people, which is also why they don't teach jurisprudence. And because they've created the fiction that has lived decades after that, even to this day, where the Aboriginal indigenous people themselves refer to the hybrid Europeans as white people, not knowing it's a status, thinking that it has to do with their complexion. And so all of that convolution and status corruption has to be cleared up for them to clear up the problem that they themselves created, fighting among themselves with the cotton wigs and the conscience wigs with this deportation operations that are going on right now. But they dare not actually talk about it, because the more they talk about it, the more the real history is going to come out, and the more of their corruption and the false history, which is, in other words, to fix the problem, they got to tell the truth. And they're really in convolution with that. This is back to where, for people who may not have comprehended what Noble Drawley was saying in the early 1900s, when he says, you're not Negro, Black, or colored. He says, if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality, because it's only a matter of time that this doo-doo would hit the fan, even though it's 100 years later. Now it's crashing on them right now. And the nations won't buy the bonds, because remember, the bond system that they run all the big cities with, they need to sell them over and over again and layer them. So not only do you have the problem of fractionalization, ultimately, they're going to have to identify everybody, including themselves. This is where the importance of nationality comes in, because when it really boils down, they're going to have to identify who are really the people of the land and who are not. So they're going to have to deal with what you refer is the American nationals, distinguished from the Englishmen, who are part and parcel of the United States Corporation Company that has been styled falsely, particularly since 1862, as the country. This is why you will see them always saying America, America, Americans, America. Well, America is the continent. And so now you're dealing with the different tribal jurisdictions. And many of the tribal jurisdictions may have political jurisdictional names now, but the real Americans are those Aboriginal tribal people, or what they refer to as the indigenous peoples, who the history has been hidden. And of course, they signify a little bit of loosening up the false information by doing the rights of indigenous people. And though that is very, in some ways, minorly comprehensive, it still has to be clarified. And so all of those things are coming to a front now. You'll see them playing out, and a lot of it will be playing out this year, and particularly in 26, because if they don't start fixing it, the economy is going to collapse. It's going to get so bad that they're not going to be able to handle it. You see, as long as they've been able to manipulate the fiat system, and as long as the Federal Reserve operations of Jekyll Island was able to be held as what they refer to as reserve currency, they could preserve control by weaponizing it, and thus suppress the real history. But it's important to recognize, and these are some things that you've always said, particularly like when you were doing the council, when you all doing the council's issue, they're going to be forced to have to identify everyone in order to undo the problem that they themselves created. And for people who don't really understand it, some people don't see it that way because they're not looking at it, the status and the jurisdiction and the right of resource, because that's been covered up. So they're looking at the bias concepts of who's from here and who's not from there type thing, loosely, not understanding how important it is. Because as the bond systems are not sold, they're going to have to start declaring who is who, including themselves. And this is back to where duly over the years, say 10, 15 years ago, when we used to tell people, remember when we used to have classes at Brother Aleem's, and one of a couple of Europeans that used to come to class, one of them, remember Emily Ford, the woman used to write.
I remember.
Higher Truth magazine. She used to come to class and she would ask me, could Europeans come to the round table? I said, yes, we're open. We don't hide anything.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, to say you have.
I went to her class once. Yeah, she had.
Yeah, and all of that, all of those things are coming to haunt them right now. And
let me tell my experience about going to her class, Taj. Emily Ford. This is after her coming to the round table. I attended a class with Sister Diani and Brother Wayama. And it was us. We were the only conscious Moors, or only Moors there. And it was about 10 Europeans, and mostly male Europeans. And they brought up the Dred Scott case. And I had mentioned that Dred Scott was plaintiff in error, and being classified as like, let me back up. Before the class began, the European males dapped me up. I mean, they shook my hand. This I gotta put in context. Before the class began, the European males who were at Emily Ford's house were very hospitable to me, very welcoming to me. They pressed my hand, dapped me up, and everything. This is very important, the context. During the course of the class, the Dred Scott case was brought up. So I raised my hand to make the point that Dred Scott was plaintiff in error, and brought up the negative status of the Negro classification. Right? To make that point home, and the importance of nationality, and that the Negro classification suppresses or erodes our nationality, all right, places into a negative classification status. after class was over, those same European males who are very welcoming, hospitable to me, they shunned me. They shunned me. Now that's why I wanted to bring that point up. That's put it in context. So what does that say? All right, the Europeans are used to our being in an inferior position.
Yes.
Us. Look at those poor. I said this on Wednesday night, and I was on with the New York City Perspective talk show, New York Perspective talk show that Israel and I are on every second and fourth Wednesday. And so they look at those blackies. Let's give charity to the blackies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, look at those poor blackies. And, so as long we in that, subservient, that inferior, subservient, mindset. But when you show that you have knowledge of the true history.
Yes, they're uncomfortable then.
Yeah, absolutely. This is my experience, and that was not the first time. I had other experiences with other European. Let me tell you another experience. When Taj and I were working on those books, I was at remember FedEx, not FedEx, Office Max, and Longside near Camaras, remember, and Longside. So I went to that Lions Plaza.
At that time, I think it was Office Depot at the time, something like that.
No, that was called Office. It was Office Max. It was Office Max at the time.
Yeah.
And then they made it Office Depot. They came Office Depot later. So anyway, I was talking to someone about making point of the true history and our nationality and what Negro, color, black does to us politically and what that means politically. And a European male, and I told this to Taj. I had never said this publicly. So this is the first time I'm saying this publicly. This is the first time I'm saying this publicly. I told Taj later on that day, but this is the first time I'm saying this publicly. The European male threatened to kill me. I kid you not. He threatened to unalive me. And home and Office Depot. He threatened to unalive me.
Yeah.
It's the first time I'm saying this publicly. Yes, he did.
And one of the motives, this is one of the motives, and it's not unlike some of the European males, and even with their concepts, or the presented party line of what Masonry is. He recognized that you were beyond 33 degrees. Because remember, even when they're Knights of Columbus, or even when they're Knights of Columbus, etc., they're still assuming that those who know or who wear a fez are limited to the 33 or 32, with the 33 honorable on a rare case, etc. And when you came like that, he already know you're beyond that. Yeah.
But of course, that just fired me up. It just made me more determined, more inspired, more focused, more driven, more whatever. When in any negative comments is actually a compliment to me. I'm fueled by negative comments. I'm fueled by it can't be done. I'm fueled by Taj knows it. Taj knows. Taj is like me. We're fueled by it can't be done comments. We're fueled by that. That fuels us. Fuels us.
That ain't discouragement. That's fuel.
Oh no, they can't discourage. No. No. There's no comments you can make to discourage me. I use that as fuel.
And the other interesting thing is how they're very often honest with you in private conversations. Then in public, they become off-put. condescending and off-put. In public, in private, they'll agree with you. Same thing with a lot of so-called black scholars.
Yep. Let me go back to the questions. I did see here. Man, they're coming in, man. Well, a lot of comments. One brother, that I saw something from Bacola. Angela. Okay. Let me see. Trying to get. Thanks. All right, Amanda. She's all right. I'm trying to find your question. We have Amanda on too. Because this one brother is putting in a lot of comments. Brother, please. Ease up on the comments, brother. You got 40 in already. Please, brother. Brother Lee Bay, please. You've done 40 already. Because I'm losing other people. I'm trying to find people's questions. All right, just ease up on hold up on your comments, bro. You already got 40 in already. Please, let's be fair to other people. We got you, brother. You're good. We got you. We hear you. I see you, brother. You're loud and clear. We got you. All right, you're good. We got you, and I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you, Lee Bay, with all my heart. I appreciate your contribution that you're making to this platform with your comments, bro. So please don't take what I'm saying as negative. Don't call me names or whatever. I'm not that, bro. But I'm saying I'm just trying to be fair to other people. I'm trying to find other people's comment. I'm trying to go back. Pacola asked, on vine fig tree, are the European pilgrims here on the land in need of documenting their status and acquiring an ID card? And I'm gonna I think
yes. In other words, that's part of the dilemma that's not in the mainstream news, but are in the background, or what you call behind closed doors, the controversies with the British Accredited Registry, that as the Bar Association, dealing with the stopgap orders that they're putting on Trump relative to this deportation. But it is a hot potato to be aired in public. However, it must be addressed for them to solve this counter move of the cottonwigs, known as the Democrats, who opened up the borders to counter Trump with their internal fighting. Now it is backfiring because in order to really address the immigration problem lawfully, in accord with Constitution and international law, they don't need to make up anything. They have to invoke the Naturalization Act. But invoking it, then they have to expose what took place at Philadelphia with the Whigmore Party, and they themselves have to declare their nationality and come out from under the white status, and also in the process expose the Black Indian status that they created. It becomes legally and lawfully complex, because now it involves multiple jurisdictions with the OAS, that's the Organization of American States, that's the Americans from the South, having by law more legitimacy on the land than the people who
it's international. It's actually an international law matter.
Exactly.
Because what they've done, what the United States has done, as implied international law principles. What they've done was forced us into their legal system under international principle known as acquisition of nationality through subjugation. They did that with the native people of Hawaii. They're using international law principles and they do legislation, but it's still international law principle. They just, it's like with their 1990, 1900, Article 8, United States Codes, Article 8,
8
where,
15.
what's that?
I think it's 8 and 15. But continue.
No,
continue.
the year 1900. The year 1900.
All right.
The year 19. I'm sorry. The year 1900. The United States Congress place the native people of Hawaii into a new citizenship category.
Yes.
Under due legislation, but that is not a United States application. That's an international law application. Exactly. That legislation is an international law application known in international law as the acquisition of nationality through subjugation, whereby they take the subjugated population of the native people of the kingdom people of Hawaii, of the people of the kingdom of Hawaii, and place them into the United States legal framework. Those are all international law. So it's a matter of international law, even territorial sovereignty, United States territorial sovereignty that they acquired from France and United States from Mexico, from Great Britain. Those are international law principle.
Yes.
So I wanted to be very detailed, because saying international law to those who don't know international law, and people hear me say this, it's like saying buta buta buta. If I said buta 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 or international law, neither one they will understand.
Yeah.
They wouldn't understand neither one.
You're giving
reference. I wanted to be very specific to identify some principles of international law and explain certain principles by element,
so that the people can research it.
Yes.
Yeah. And then of course they dethroned the empress, and then called under color. And this is really the conflict comes in. It's selective. They're using international law selectively to enforce colonial operations, and then they're doing colorful legislation under the corporate auspices, etc., to entertain sovereignty that's not vested in them. This is where the conflict comes in. And of course, because it's not in the mainstream news and people who don't know law and jurisprudence don't see it. Anybody that knows law sees it immediately. And of course, this is where a lot of people misunderstand when they're having conversation with people who know national principles or international law and constitutional principles, because they look at it from a surface point of view without looking at the specifics of the status, because now you're dealing with the specificity of status. And the fact of the matter is the natural, aboriginal, and indigenous people of Hawaii cannot ever be United States citizens. And Hawaii can never be a United States state, not lawfully.
Relative to the
so they're using colorable legislation to claim or to assimilate the land under the auspices of assimilating the people, even against their own will. Same thing they did to us.
Yeah, so there's subjugation. They're subjugating. There's subjugation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you have, they acquire. You're looking at on the international law of acquisition of territory. You're looking at loss of sovereignty, territorial sovereignty. So these are core international law principles. You're looking at the law of secession, and that's what you're talking about. Just want to give the people the international law principles so that they can expand their mind through research and be guided by identifying the international law principles, and to be able to study the elements that are associated with each international law principle.
And to know the difference between lawful, which is constitutional, and legal, which is not necessarily lawful. So they'll do things under a color of law only by legal process, but it is outside law. And this is again why it's important for people to have a fundamental constitutional background, because they need to know how governments are run. And also, when you're looking at the jurisdictional powers or the judicial powers of the United States, when you go in to Article 3, Section 2, the legitimacy of those judgments and the legislation, you recognize that they're actually violating the law, because they would have to come under ambassador, diplomats, and consulars, and yet under that assimilation that denies the people, the Aboriginal indigenous people of Hawaii, to actually due process of law, because their position would be consular. But then they couldn't play the state game and then assimilate the land. So they're in contradiction. So in order to fix their so-called immigration problem that they themselves created, they got to start telling the truth about the history. And definitely they got to invoke the Naturalization Act. Then they got to expose the corruption that Ulysses Grant did in 1870. So all of that stuff has to come out, because it's backfiring on them right now. How do you say? Selective prosecution of international law, while they don't acknowledge it when it comes to other people. The same way they're doing in Palestine right now, in violation of international. They won't acknowledge international law when it comes to their colonial operations. Then they want to selectively claim it in order to assimilate people that they've conquered under subjugation. So all of that convolution and contradiction is now muddying the world's courts. This is why they won't recognize or acknowledge the ICJ, except when it served them. Now they won't acknowledge it, because all this stuff is hitting the fan big time. But in backdrop, they can't sell no bonds now. So all of this stuff is really imploding.
Abundance Child is mentions your says Taj always gives remedies on Friday at the House of Reawakening of Mind. Talk about your schedule there, Taj, at the House of Reawakening of Mind.
Well, I use we that for years, and even yourself, we would do classes on the first and third Friday of every moon, to share and to bring back or to stay on point, because we already know that they're always putting in the mainstream news different things of interest, but are actually diversions from what's really going on, which is why over the years, most of what we've shared has always been redundantly constitutional oriented, because we already know they're doing everything to hide that, because the remedy to the social affairs and to the economic affairs of the Aboriginal indigenous people and tribes is still treaty and constitution. So we do every Friday, and on the first Friday of every moon and the third Friday of every moon. And then a lot of times we do something on the last Friday, but basically that's the general routine. And if something would come up important, we may interject in between, but those are the general protocols, is the first and third Friday and the last Friday of every moon. And
all right. So we got that. So that's the first. So you're at the building, Taj. For clarification, let's be clear.
Basically, yes.
On
at the House office right now.
Yeah, yes. But I'm talking about I'm talking about for the Friday classes.
At the building.
Is at the building the first? That's the first and third Friday.
Yes.
All right. At 7, it starts at 7, right? 7 p.m.
Yes.
All right. I want to make sure that's why I want to make that clear, because people are inquiring. That's all.
Yes, unless designated other. If we're going If we're doing online, the notice will be given.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
The notice will be given, yes. And you know, the interesting thing is the nature of the politics that are taking place right now, and the battle that in behind closed doors that the British Accredited Registry is arguing right now with Trump is basically all in your compilation of 1996. All of this stuff is coming up right now, Dooley. All of it. And it's laughable because they thought they could hide this stuff. And it's coming back to haunt them. And the longer they let it, the longer they delay it, the worse things get for them. The thing that our real concern is getting our people pretty much grounded and enough, because it's not going to be easy, which you already know, because people have different trains of thought because of the MK Ultra training to survive this thing while transition is made, you know, because a lot of destruction is going to take place while these institutions that the people have depended on are collapsing, and they can't be saved. And this, the other important thing is that they can't be fixed, and they're trying to do intelligently, although corruption, how do you say, controlled demolition, and trying to control the speed at which these institutions are dismantled, because they're collapsing anyway, so that they don't lose absolute control and that they don't have chaos in the street. You know, that's a problem that they're having right now. But again, back to what Abundance was talking about earlier, at the root of these whole arguments that they have to deal with, that they're avoiding the long as they can, is the Naturalization Act. And they have to argue the corruption that took place in 1870 with Ulysses Grant, with their modification of the Naturalization Act after they murdered Lincoln. So all of that stuff is connected. And, you know, it's interesting how most people would never recognize that the assassination of Lincoln, even up to the assassination of Kennedy, is all connected to this, aside from other things, which is connected to the fiat system and the suspension of the Gold Act, also with Nixon in 70-71. All of that stuff is connected. And people who don't understand the geopolitics don't see it. However, because the bond system has propped up many of the duplicitous jobs that have been maintained through the corruption, by them having to actually shut down departments, not just, how do you say, fire people or let people go. They have to literally fire people in blocks of hundreds and thousands, and it can't be ignored anymore because they can't sell the bonds, so they can't hide this stuff. But many of the people don't know that undergirding a lot of this problem that they're having is the expenditures of your major cities, or what they would call the sanctuary cities, where their funding has been diluted by their infighting with the Cotton Whigs and the Conscience Whigs, with the open border thing. And now it's actually breaking the major cities, so they can't hide this anymore. And the other problem is that they can't sell bonds to cover it up anymore. And behind it all is still the Naturalization Act. And they really don't want to get into that, because then that starts unraveling the false history and the false narrative. And this back to things to look at, Sister Abundance, relative to your questions earlier. This is so, you know, for people who don't know jurisprudence, they wouldn't look at it that way. But those who know geopolitics and jurisprudence see just exactly what's happening. And they really don't want to get into that conversation, do they? They really don't want to go there. But it's ultimately unavoidable, because that's the cure. In other words, you can't run a government outside the Constitution and maintain order. It will collapse. And this is what they're dealing with. Like it or not, who they like, who they don't like, regardless, matters not.
We have a Bacola's question. What is the main purpose of ICE invading states like Illinois?
They're not invading anything. They're exercising the authority of executive power, etc. And so now you want to go to Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution. Because remember, you got disorder within the states. And the governors of the states are actually violating the law by opening borders and calling sanctuary cities without due process, but they did it for political gain, for fights among themselves. So they violated the Naturalization Act and created the problems for themselves. Now, don't confuse the rights of the people themselves, the people who are being used, and understand that the people who are under the immigrations are being used politically. They're being used. However, they themselves are not necessarily wrong. Don't confuse this. But the opening of the borders was a violation of due process of law under the Naturalization Act, which was modified by Ulysses Grant in 1870. But they did it for political infighting between the Cotton Whigs and the Conscience Whigs, which the public are told are the Democratic and Republican parties. They don't want you to know the real history. And what it's doing, it's breaking, aside from other things, it's breaking the bond system. They can't fund it. So the big cities are going bankrupt. But they created that problem. Now, according to Constitution law, the executive order or the federal government has to step in only because of that condition, because it has not been addressed on the state's level. Read Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution. However, they're colored. So it's almost like they're selectively using the Constitution rather than having stood on it in the first place. And it's coming to bite them now. But the real deal, he didn't invade. That's not an invasion. Don't mean we're supporting it. But if you're dealing with the law, the federal executive jurisdiction is invoked under war powers when there's what you call confusion and war, because war is not always hot fire. When there's issues that are in the states that are not being resolved under the state's jurisdiction, the federal government steps in under that cause. So it's not wrong. It's uncomfortable because the people aren't used to constitutional issues being invoked. But I think one of the things that a lot of people need to look at is understanding when war powers are invoked. And I think a lot of times when people look at Trump, they're looking at president. But most people, because they're not taught civics, don't understand when he steps out of the seat of the president and goes into the seat of commander-in-chief, which is the seat that he's actually holding right now. And so therefore their view of what they think should be going on is based on misunderstanding of governmental operations. So the deal of it is the fact that they haven't been teaching the people civics is also coming back to bite them, because they look like they're invading when they're actually enforcing the law, when actually they was breaking the law themselves. It's just that it's backfiring on them. But they ain't invading Illinois. They're enforcing the Naturalization Act. And I'm not saying that in support. I'm telling you because that's the law. And, you know, it's interesting, Dooley, because this is part of the problem that they're having. By them violating the Constitution is backfiring on them right now. But they made the people ignorant, didn't they? As a matter of fact, just for the sake of it, Dooley, if you have it available, read Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution.
No, I don't have it available.
Keep on. I'm gonna find it. Go ahead. Keep on. Yeah.
All right.
Because
so
the people need to understand what's happening. The people need to understand what's going on right now in order to because we're going to need, this is one of the very important things. The people are going to have to become erudite in constitutional principles. When you're talking constitution, you're talking treaty at the same time, even though the word treaty is not spoken. And by people not knowing civics, they don't know that the Ordinance of 1787, Constitution for, not of, for the United States, and the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, 1787, all treaties made, etc., Article 6, in its completion is being enforced right now. Why? Because you have disorder in the states. Isn't that why that they have ICE, which is enforcing immigration? However, the problem of it is that until they started fighting among themselves, they weren't maintaining the Immigration Act. That's
an extension of a colonial power, though. The United States is an extension of the United States. That's what it means. That's just for the audience. United States is an extension of Great Britain. United States rose out of Great Britain.
Still is.
Let me, because I can be very detailed. I want to be very deep. People who study under me know me. They know I can go very, very detailed.
You need to go detailed because people need to understand.
I made a claim that the United States rose out of Great Britain. Article 1 of the 1783 Definitive Peace Treaty between Great Britain and the United States. His Britannic Majesty, which was King George III, acknowledged the United States, viz, all 13 are named. United States, viz means namely. Latin, V-I-Z, Latin, means namely. All 13 are named to be free, sovereign, and independent states. He relinquishes, which means that King George III relinquishes to the North Carolina state. I got it, because that's what all 13 mean. He's dealing with them individually. He relinquishes the territorial boundaries that's laid out in the North Carolina Colony Charter to North Carolina State. He relinquishes the territorial boundaries that's laid out in the South Carolina Colony Charter to South Carolina State. I have to say it like that so you can understand. That's what viz means. That's what the United States viz, all 13 states are named. I'm explaining what that means. So I just explained by pointing the treaty that United States rose. North Carolina State did not set up any colony. North Carolina State did not grant a colony charter. The Crown, the British Crown did.
Exactly.
To proprietaries.
Yeah, exactly.
The charter outlines the boundaries, the jurisdictional boundaries for North Carolina State is outlined in the North Carolina Colony Charter. If there is a dispute, Article 3, Section 2 of the United States Constitution, if there's a land dispute between North Carolina State and South Carolina State, they won't bring the South Carolina Constitution in. They're not bringing the South Carolina Constitution in the court, not bringing the North Carolina Constitution in the court. What are they bringing in the court, Abdullah? The North Carolina County Charter and the South Carolina County Charter. Why they bring the South Carolina? Why would I saw a case? I don't make anything up. I don't need to make anything. I'm too well studied. I don't need to make anything up. They bring in the colony charters, because it's a matter of a land dispute, dealing with borders, land dispute, because the boundaries, jurisdictional boundaries, are in the colony charters.
Exactly.
That's why. So I just explained in detail that United States rose out of Great Britain.
Yes.
So that's this great King George III relinquished, and then the Northwest Territory, Article 2 of that treaty of the 1783 Definitive Peace Treaty between Great Britain and the United States, outlines the boundaries of the Northwest Territory, North Carolina, Illinois, part of Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin. That is known as the Northwest Territory. That was France conquered. France conquered the North. That was known as the North. France conquered in the 1763 treaty between France and Great Britain. France ceded that to Great Britain. I'm being very, in order to get people, in order to raise people up, you got to be specific. I can't be general with anything. You got to be specific with dates, with not only do I mention treaties, people who know that, two people who study with me, they know that I don't just mention treaties.
Yes.
I mention the articles in treaties.
Yes. Now
I just want to get people that level. All right.
Now, this is what makes like what you've been doing over the years and what we've been doing so important. A lot of these questions come up logically because of people's concept of what governing authority and jurisdiction is and what it is not. Now, Constitution for the United States, right? Section 4. This is representing what they're dealing with the ICE issue, right? So Section 3, Article 4, Section 3, and Section 4. But mainly, I want to deal with Section 4 so they'll understand the operations of ICE. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government. We're going to go over this again. The United States.
Yeah. Equal footing. That's the equal footing clause.
Yes.
That's in the North. Yeah.
In the union, a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislative cannot be convened against domestic violence. So what has been happening since they opened them borders? They have drained the tax finance from the people of the land and given it to other people of other political jurisdictions, right? Because once they open the border, they have to start taking care of these people. They were giving them licenses, they were giving them checks, they were giving them housing, they were giving them medical care, they were giving them food, etc. That all must be regulated under the Naturalization Act, which was ignored. This is what forced the executive branch to interject. That's what ICE is, Article 4, Section 4. And I think a lot of people aren't thinking that the Democrats, which is the Cottonwigs, forced Trump's hand because of their infighting, their competition for those.
Absolutely. You're talking about within the body of the Constitution. There's no dispute within the body of the Constitution. Yes. No, I'm with you. Because I want to give,
understanding.
No, I'm with that. I want to give them the origin.
Yes.
Because I want to come from a jurist perspective.
Yes.
I don't mean that. When I explain, let me explain coming from a jurist perspective. Because I read the Constitution from a jurist perspective. What I mean by that? What do I mean by that? Taj read Article 4, Section 4. All right, this is known as contextual interpretation.
Yes.
Taj gave you textual. This is very important. This is very important for the audience. Taj gave y'all textual interpretation. No, let me explain the difference. Let me explain the difference. Taj gave y'all textual interpretation. What that means is he opened up the Constitution. He read Article 4, Section 4. I'm going to give you contextual. Contextual means I am not going to open up the Constitution and simply read it. I'm going to give you the history that led up to Article 4, Section 4. That's called contextual. That makes you, I'm telling you, that is a jurist.
Yes.
Attorneys don't know this. Jurists do. Yes. Attorneys would do what Taj did. They would open up the Constitution, regular attorneys, and they would read. That's called textual. But jurists will do what I do. Analysis. They know the history that led up to that the drafting. Let me back it up. All right.
Minutes in the record.
Article 4, Section 4. This Constitution shall guarantee Republican form. That's called an equal footing. That's known as the equal footing clause. And that equal footing clause goes back to where 6 states, we're going back to 1770, 1777 with the English subjects who revolted against their crown, fighting the war. It's called the Revolutionary War.
Yep.
They seized the Northwest Territory.
Yep.
They gained where you had 6 of the smallest states, 6 of the largest states, Virginia being the largest. So 6 of the largest states made claims to the Northwest Territory. The 6 smallest states were out. So there was a dispute.
Yep.
And so what they did was part of to settle the dispute. The Northwest, Thomas Jefferson, to settle the dispute, drafted the ordinance, the land ordinance of 17. The first one was 1780. 1784 land ordinance, and then the 1785 land ordinance. Now, what was missing in the 1784 and 1785 land ordinance is that Samuel Chase of Maryland, he recommended that the land be managed by Congress. That way, no state will have an advantage.
Yes.
So that's where that comes in. That's what's drafted in the Northwest Ordinance. Article 4 and Article 4, Section 3, Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution is tied to that dispute and was settled in the 1787 Northwest Ordinance.
Absolutely.
Because they had decided to make 5 new states out of the Northwest Territory, but they wanted to be sure that the new states will be on equal footing. That's the equal footing clause. There's a history. When you read case summaries, what the Supreme Court would do in case summaries, they would do what I'm doing. They will give you the history,
give you the
leading
context.
up to it. Exactly. That's called contextual analysis. Taj gave you contextual. Taj gave you, so we understand the difference. He gave you textual analysis. I'm giving you contextual analysis. There's a difference. Textual analysis versus contextual analysis.
Yes.
I just want to raise y'all up. That's all. I just want to raise you up to another level.
Now, and this is exactly what I'm saying, and this is very important. Now notice how. So, in order to have principle of lawful execution on the land or jurisdictional authority on the land, so now you're dealing with people from other political jurisdictions. They're still people of the land, but they're under different political jurisdiction. Therefore, the invocation of the Naturalization Act is a standard in the protocols of the jurisdictional, what you would call the invisible boundaries, or where you may have people of different political nation states that might be operating on the same land. Then you have a separate jurisdiction. And this is where the context that you're describing comes in. And again, the very fact that we're even discussing this is demonstrative of the damage that has been done to the people at large by not teaching them the truth, the contextual truth of Constitution, treaty, etc. This is why, like I mentioned earlier, treaty, ordinance, and Constitution are looked at as one document. And this is represented also in what Article 6, right? And I'll put this in context, and then I want you to take it from there and also add to clarification of that issue. And this is so that people themselves, well-meaning, don't violate the law themselves because of operating from an emotional perspective as opposed to the law. Article 6, Constitution for the United States. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or the laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. The senators and representatives before mentioned and the members of the several states' legislatures and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. And this goes back to the importance of what I mentioned from the beginning, treaty, ordinance, and Constitution. And then you have the context. And this is what makes it very important, that context that you presented. And this is what has been lacking. And for the lack of comprehension of how these things come about, and the fact that it constitutes the supreme law of the land, then they would look at what Trump is doing from the executive perspective, dealing with the confusion and the cost and the disorder that's operating within the states that's not being addressed by the so-called governors and mayors of the state in contradiction to their oath to the Constitution, kind of force his hand. And that's what ALICE is all about. Not whether we support it or not, but understanding what is it they're doing, what is it they're using, what gives them the authority or lack of authority to do what's going on, so that we can look at the operations intelligently and not emotionally. And by you putting it in context, that's what needs to be done on a larger scale with the people at large. And that's very important. And thankful to your teaching skills and your approach to the context of that text is what's important. And the interesting thing, we shouldn't have to even explain it because it should be known. It should have been taught from grade school. But then again, the Black Codes operation wouldn't have been entrenched if they taught the truth with it. They wouldn't have been able to enforce the Negro Act, would they? They wouldn't have been able to get off with the War Department, with the Bureau of Indian Affairs and all the other schisms that they created.
Maintain territorial sovereignty over land. Continue the subjugation and the conquest that began by France and Spain that they took over, from France and they took over from Spain. That's what's being very specific. Maintaining territorial sovereignty of our land that they gained from Spain through treaty, France through treaty, United States of Mexico through treaty, that maintaining our subjugation that they maintain from France, from Great Britain, from Spain. I'm just being very specific. I'm not, I got to be specific. I'm identifying the international law principles by name and element, because I cannot raise the people up. If I'm general, that's not going to cut it. I'm got to be very specific by identifying the international principle by name and identifying the elements for each of the principles.
Thank you.
That's the only way we're going to raise the people up.
Now, not just that, because it's important for the people to also comprehend that even though it may be uncomfortable and even though it may not be in the mindset of the venue of the people are going to have to start qualifying themselves to self-govern. So they need to be aware as you're presenting context. But the context, as you explained, also makes distinction of jurisdiction, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So we're in the type. So we're talking about a pre-existing Moorish sovereignty.
Exactly.
So the pre-existing, which that means that we have an inherent right of self-determination. We don't. All right. If we need permission from the United States, that means it's not inherent right. It's not inherent right. It's not self-determination. It's self-determination. It's inherent right.
Exactly.
If you analyze what Juali did in the context of international law, you have to know international law.
Yes.
You have to know it. Juali, what Juali did, what does it mean in the context of international law? When you teach a people who've been placed under subjugation by France, Spain, I will never start with the United States. I will never, never. You don't start with the United States. When you talk about subjugation, you talk about conquest. When you talk about the survey of land, you don't start with the United States. United States is not a conqueror. France is.
Yes.
Spain is.
Yes. Called
Great Britain is. Great Britain, France, they conquered, they surveyed the land. United States didn't do that. United States received the French territorial sovereignty was transferred to the United States through the Louisiana Purchase Treaty. France transferred the title, conquesting title, the survey. The French surveyed our land.
Yes.
In the late 1670.
Yes.
And through a survey map.
Yes.
And named the territorial sovereignty claim over our land named after King Louis XIV, Louisiana. France in turn in 1762 transferred French territorial sovereignty to Spain through the Treaty of Fontainebleau in 1762. So you have French subjects. Spain brought in Spanish subjects. We were there too under subjugation as well. So now when the French Spain retroceeded to Spain, to France.
Yes.
In 1801, and the Louisiana Purchase Treaty. There is a clause there whereby the French subjects will become incorporated into the United States Constitution. So the French subjects who were born on our land in that French zone became citizens of the United States Constitution by virtue of the treaty, not by immigration, not by the United States immigration, not through United States naturalization, through treaty. The French king negotiated with the United States.
Yes.
It's in the treaty. I just want to be very specific.
Now,
as what Taj was alluding to, but I want to be very specific. These matters are still there.
Yes.
This is how United States gained territorial sovereignty. Nobody was saying in 1710, just give an example. 1710, nobody was saying United States. I'm going to the United States.
They weren't. Exactly.
Nobody in the world, no one in the world was saying, I'm going to the United States. I live in the United States. I'm from the United States. In the world, why not? Why would no one in the world in 1710? Because the United States had not been established. See?
Exactly, because
I'm just trying to bring it home, my brothers and sisters.
Yeah, exactly. Now, look how things correlate, Dooley. Like on your book, Moors and Masonry, too, right? Now people understand also another aspect of the history of the Statue of Liberty in the bay with the iron frame and the copper cladding as a gift from France and a signal for the conquest, as they refer to, of the Corsairs, which is the Aboriginal Moors of the land, etc. And the other thing that people need to know in relationship to your contextual explanation, because it really is constitutional instruction what you're given, and it shows the importance that most of people don't know that to this very day, that all the court systems operating on the land are controlled from the British Accredited Registry, from the Circle Church and Chancery, Fleet Street, England, to this very day. United States is England corporation, distinguished from the land. And that must be, and this is where the context that you're expressing is important. And so when they're talking about the operations here, that's why they refer to themselves as the Franciscan Brotherhood.
They just have to know, they have to understand, once again, you're looking at territorial sovereignty and how they acquire united, all right, so you have here, because we are the people of the land.
Exactly.
We are the people of the land. So let's to further explain, this is an international law application known as acquisition of nationality through subjugation. When the United States applies the phrase born in the United States to us, what does that mean in the context of international law? It says, well, Taj was born in the United States. What does that mean in the context of international law? That is known in international law as the acquisition. So what they've done was forced us into their legal system and placed us into a new citizenship framework. That's an international law at principle.
Without our sanction, without our agreement.
So by saying, remember, we are the native, autochthonous, aboriginal people of the land. So United States is forcing the language born in the United States on us. Mm-hmm. What does that mean in the context of international law, not United States laws? Not you, because it's not United. Hear me out, my brothers and sisters.
In the context of international,
what the United States is doing is applying international law. That's international law. Born in the United States. That's it. When you're applying that to the native people, that's an international law principle of subjugating them, forcing them into their legal, not to our legal, into their forcing us into their legal framework and placing us into a new citizenship framework. That's international. That's not United States laws. That's international law that the United States is applying.
Exactly.
They're maintaining the subjugation that maintain the subjugation, colonization, discovery, and conquest that began by by Rome and Spain and continued by Spain and Portugal. They're maintaining it.
Exactly.
So you have to know the international law principle to be able to identify what's going on, be able to identify the actions, the language, the terminology. It's in internet. If you don't know the international law principle, then you won't be able to identify. So what they've done was groomed us in racism, prejudice, hatred, discrimination. But when you use subjugation, you're invoking what that means, subjugation. That means a state is subjugating another state. We are a people that belong to the Moroccan Empire by national origin, descent. Yes, we lost our sovereignty. We have an inherent right to recover her. Drew Ali began the process in 1913, over 100 years ago, when he taught us that we're Moors and not nigger colored black. What does that mean in the context of international law? That he's restoring Moorish national consciousness and beginning the process to recover our lost Moorish sovereignty. They know what that means. I know what it means in the context of international law.
Exactly.
So for over 100 years, we've been on the road to recover our lost Moorish sovereignty. We ain't there yet. We ain't there yet. You have conscious Moors. Hear me out, my brothers and sisters. Please hear me out. You have conscious Moors who are selling y'all bullshit.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They're selling y'all bullshit.
Yep. Yep.
We have not recovered our lost Moorish sovereignty. Once you know the elements, we're still on the road. It's been over 100 years. We're still on the road, but we have not recovered. It has not been restored. We have not revived her.
Right.
They're selling you BS because they're trying to take your coins.
Yep. Yep.
Abdul don't know what he's talking about. Abdul don't know what he's talking about. Listen to me. Listen to me. We got a state over here. We got a state over here. Yeah. $150 a package. Get your package for $500. Abdul ain't shit. Abdul don't know what he's talking about. Here's your package for $500. We got a state. That's all. It's a money grab.
You can't sell it. It's not for sale.
And that's what's going on.
Yep.
Well, my brother, we passed our time, but this is great. Once again, Taj Tarik Bey is the reason for this book. The reason why this book exists is that man you see right now. He's the reason why this book exists. Taj Tarik Bey gave me George Washington's letter because I was going to say this at the beginning. So now, Taj Tarik Bey gave me George Washington's letter to Muhammad ibn Abdullah dated December 1st, 1789. I read the letter about 20 times, analyze it, and I wanted to place George Washington's letter. What is the impetus of Moors and Masonry? Is I wanted to place George Washington's letter in a broader historical context, because in the letter, George Washington apologizes to Muhammad ibn Abdullah for his late correspondence. He thanks to Muhammad ibn Abdullah for honoring the treaty that persists between us.
You want me to read it, Julie?
Yes, read the letter, because that's the reason. Right. That letter, Taj Tarik Bey influence, and that letter is the reason why Moors and Masonry Part 1 exists.
This is from the documents of American history. Letter from George Washington to Muhammad ibn Abdullah, Sultan of Morocco, City of New York, December 1, 1789. Great and magnanimous friend, since the date of the letter which the late Congress, by their president, addressed your Imperial Majesty, The United States of America have thought proper to change their government and institute a new one agreeable to the Constitution, of which I have the honor herewith to enclose a copy. The time necessarily employed in the arduous task and the disarrangements occasioned by so great though peaceable a revolution will apologize and account for your majesty's not having received those regularly advised marks of attention from the United States, which the friendship and magnanimity of your conduct toward them afforded reason to expect. The United States having unanimously appointed me to supreme executive authority in this nation, your majesty's a letter of August the 17th, 1788, which by reason of the dissolution of the late government remained unanswered, has been delivered to me. I have also received the letters which your imperial majesty has been so kind as to write in favor of the United States to the Bashars of Tunis and Tripoli, and I present to you the sincere acknowledgments and thanks of the United States for this important mark of your friendship for them. We greatly regret the hostile disposition of those regencies toward this nation who have never injured them is not to be removed on terms of our power to comply with. Within our territories, there are no mines, whether of gold or silver, and this young nation, just recovering from the waste and dissolution of a long war, have not as yet had time to acquire riches by agriculture and commerce. But our soil is bountiful and our people industrious, and we have reason to flatter ourselves that we shall gradually become useful to our friends. The encouragement which your majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions, the punctuality with which you have caused the treaty with us to be observed, and the just and generous measures taken in the case of Captain Proctor make a deep impression on the United States and confirm their respect for and attachment to your imperial majesty. It gives me great pleasure to have the opportunity of assuring your majesty that while I remain at the head of this nation, I shall not cease to promote every measure that may conduce to the friendship and harmony which so happily consists between your empire and them, and shall esteem myself happy in every occasion of convincing your majesty of the high sense which in common with the whole nation I entertain the magnanimity, wisdom, and benevolence of your majesty. May the Almighty bless your imperial majesty, our great and magnanimous friend, with his constant guidance and protection. Sealed and signed, George Washington.
And to get my book, go to mooresandmasonry.org. It's been rolling across the screen for the past 2.5 hours. Go to mooresandmasonry.org for my book, for How Her Venus and Moon Rule, for my Moors Masonry Part 2, Masonic Compass Square, the connection and measurement of timekeeping, the Illuminati and the illumination of the mind, etymology and vocabulary, and the etymology and vocabulary supplements you want, go to mooresandmasonry.org. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. This was a great ride, Taj. This was fun, man. I was looking forward to this. We had scheduled this about over a month ago. And I kept it under wraps. I only told a few people that you would be on. I started marketing it, I think, Thursday. So we, on all my social media platforms.
And it's very important that that you put that context in, because even for many people who know national and international law, that's how they would look at ICE, look at what's going on. And they would recognize both the rightful operations in it and the corruption in it, and be able to make the discernment. Know this for surety. that ultimately we, the people of the land, are going to have to clean this mess up. Therefore, we need these people to be competent. Therefore, this is one of the reasons why you affirmatively invoked context, and people need to understand that. And that's appreciated too. And plus, with them having, you know, like Drew Ali said, in order to change the people, you must change their literature. And he also said, you know, take your places among the affairs of men. This is what everybody's being faced with right now. And then the misrepresenting, or what the de facto government is being exposed. And rather than the people approach these things, which are pressing everybody right now and affecting everybody socially and politically and economically right now, we need competent people. Therefore, the context is important. And it shows you really how important that book actually is, because it's going to put both the culture and the geopolitics in more context.
Oh, it's loaded, man. Part 2 is loaded too. Moorish Masonry Part 2 is loaded as well. You see my growth in Part 2. You see my growth in my knowledge of international law in Part 2. But Part 1 is loaded with references upon references. And let me say this: when I do vending, and I've been to vending a few times, and where there was quite a few Europeans there, my present. This is what I've observed with Europeans. They don't, when they picked up my book, Moorish Masonry Part 1, they start from the back. Why? Why they start from the back? Why not? Why didn't they start from the front? They start from the back. The bibliography. Exactly. The bibliography. They see what? Over 100 references in page after page. They're strolling. Oh, and they like their eyes at 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages, 5 pages, 6 pages, and their eyes light up. You know what I mean?
Geopolitical context.
Then they're just looking. They're not even reading the bibliography. They're seeing the amount of references I have.
Yes.
And their eyes widen.
And most of them being Knights Templars, right? Or Odd Fellows, many of them don't even get that knowledge in their lodges. They get it in
they're not getting, man, no. Hell no.
So you're taking them on a 360 journey. I say you're taking them 32s on a 360 journey around the circle.
Yeah.
Hey, Dooley, swing the tassel. Taking them 360.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Anyway, I really appreciate, man. You know,
yeah, this was fun, brother. We gotta do this again, man. Maybe about in 3 months. Let's do this again in about 3 months or sooner. You let me know if you want to do it sooner. You just let me know. You let me know if you want to do it sooner.
Well, you just pick up some of the comments, questions, and then put something.
And
together.
I'll go from there. We go from there. We'll do a part 2, y'all. We're gonna do a part 2 because I know people are gonna ask me. I'm only saying that because I know they're
gonna need it. You know, and
they're gonna ask me. I already know it. They're gonna ask me on TikTok. They will ask me on Instagram. They will ask me on Facebook. They're gonna call me, email me, whatever. I'm telling you, I already know.
A lot of people.
I already know.
A lot of people who are just listening may not know that they'll be called upon in the future to deal with the affairs of men unexpectedly, even though at this time they may not look at themselves as being qualified. However, Moors and Masonry will help them, and we need qualified people because the people of the land are going to have to help fix this thing. Like
absolutely. We're very clear. We definitely, absolutely.
You know, like people keep talking about self-determination. In order to be self-determined in government jurisdiction, you're going to have to know the real history.
Fact.
And in context.
Facts.
You can't enforce law if you don't know the law.
And you can't govern yourself if you don't have the knowledge of law.
Exactly.
You can't govern yourself. You're just saying it. You're just saying self-determination and self-governance. You can't just say it.
We got to
have the knowledge. You're saying, because you're talking about governing people's lives, natural resources, and protection, and this is I don't, you know what, Taj? I really don't think some of these conscious Moors have really know what time it is, brother.
All right,
I really, and I often say this to Terrence. I've said this to Terrence several times. I said this to Pecola. I've said this to Shem. And I said, I'm like, I really don't think they know what this really, what this movement really, truthfully is. I've just gone by actions in this state. I don't think they really understand, Taj.
Let me interject this. 33 years ago, not only
next month, anniversary next month.
Not only with the letter from George Washington. Now, remember, I told you that Sister Eva had came down to visit the temple number 10 in Camden. And remember the book, one of the books I did for my children, Moors Uniting of the Nation, right?
I remember that.
Yes.
It had never been published, but he did show me.
Yeah.
He did show me he had about a good 80 pages.
Now, remember the letter from Noble Drew Ali himself to one of the Sikhs in the temple when he talked about the infiltration. And it's called
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, we put it in the newspaper.
Yes, we did. We put on one of the issues. We did. We published in one of the issues. I'm Rock Star.
To understanding the geopolitics of the Moorish movement that you're referring to within the context of so-called conscious Moors. It ain't like it wasn't addressed. It was addressed by the Prophet himself. However, as I brought to your attention 33 years ago, how many people in possession of it, conveniently for whatever their motive, will not read that letter. And so what you said is valid, but I'm putting in context the dynamics of many conscious Moors really not understanding the international law and the geopolitics that nationality card presents to them, because it hasn't been taught. And that letter puts it in context that Drew Ali himself was making this very same argument before they neutralized him.
We make it clear that our nationality, our Moorish nationality, is embodied in our pre-existing Moorish sovereignty.
Exactly.
Nationality is multifaceted. I've said this. I say this all the time, that a lot of these conscious Moors don't understand nationality, man. And let me explain what I mean by that. I'm explain what I mean, because I gotta clarify what I say. Because they'll say, Abdullah don't know what he's talking about. Abdullah don't know what he's talking about. You know what I mean? I know I'm a Moor. I don't mean that.
It's not emotional.
I don't mean that. I'm talking about the political application of nationality. Let me give you more details. Nationality, in the context of international law, there are elements: legal bond, rights and duties, state's jurisdiction, diplomatic protection. Nationality is multifaceted. Sovereignty is a political and legal framework that formalizes and institutionalizes the nationality and national identity of a nation of people.
Context.
You don't discuss nationality outside of sovereignty.
Context.
So I just wanted, because I just don't want to say to the people, they don't understand nationality. They don't say, I know I'm more.
Julie, it's easy and it's simple. Put it in context of what Drew Ali said himself, right? With a divine warning by the prophet for the nations. That's plural. When you say nations, that's plural. That makes it international, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. He says what? He says the citizens of all free national governments according to their national constitutions are all of one family bearing one free national name. And those who fail to recognize the free national names of their constitutional governments are classified as undesirable and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and the principles that delude to slavery. And I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to the state of mind of their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive their divine rights as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own national names and religions. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes through the connection to the Moorish divine national movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's governments, and not under a granted privilege, as has been the condition or the existing condition for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government, and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone, and without your national citizenship by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and for the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of government. I am depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate, and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting the free national constitution of the United States of America. I love my people and desire for their unity and mind back to their own national and divine standards, because by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and is asked for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and by principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon names, issues, and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word colored, quote unquote, deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon the earth. And these names have never been recognized by any true American citizen of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and South in unit, placing the Southerners who were at that time without power within the constitutional body of power. And at that time, in 1865, the free national constitutional law that was in force since 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people and citizens. And so there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come, because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. And I, the prophet, do hereby believe that this administration of the government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of men that have never done them any good, but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way. And without understanding, they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment, in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. And they will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerner for all these great misuses. But I have traveled in the South and have examined conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light, from the prophet Noble Drawley. And it's back to even when you look at the documents that are registered and that have been documented even in the Library of Congress and in history around the world, that the very principles that he presented requires a knowledge of Constitution and international law. And the fact that many people's questions actually address international law issues, including the issue with ICE, required that fundamental knowledge that is a part of the Moorish Divine National Movement. He said at Temple, the Moorish National and Divine Movement is constitutional enforcement. And to take your places among the affairs of men, logically, you're dealing with geopolitics and international law, whether controversial people in the same states, in different states, or foreign states. Article 3, Section 1, 2, and 3. I yield the floor. Have a good night.
All right, this has been fun. All right, so I'll be bringing Taj back. We'll talk, a month or two within the next 2 months. And I think I had some openings one opening next month. We'll see, but I'll look at the schedule. But I have November's open.
Now, as a separate exercise, right? Your context, the interjection of context, it's for the listeners, not yourself, because I already know. That's why it's necessary to hold classes, because the context and analysis of what people generally refer to as the historical minutes, if you get the point, because basically that's historical minutes, must be displayed so that people have a contextual comprehension of the reason for the existence of law. Also, for them to have the capacity to distinguish de jure from de facto, because the people have been trained under de facto, which is why the confusion is there. And also why, as you said earlier, many conscious Moors still don't know, which is why a lot of times they'll criticize because they think they know, only because they're participating. You know how, like, people, because they're members, they assume that constitutes knowledge. It doesn't constitute knowledge.
No.
Knowledge constitutes knowledge.
Yeah.
And like Raleigh said, half has not been told. If I told you everything, you would go back to sleep. So it's not like these things haven't been addressed by Raleigh himself. It's just that when you relook at it, you'll see that he was dealing with the very same problems that you're dealing with right now. That's why he said, I want what? He's calling on brave men and women, because he knows that's what it's going to require, to help in that great missionary work. Why? Because soon as many people, soon as they get pushback or they get pressure, many of them fold. That's why, like I told you 33 years ago, I said a lot of people going to come like fireworks, will make a big splash. And when the pressure comes, whether they're sincere or not, they will be tested and they will disappear. And how do you know those who are sincere? They will be consistent. And the years will pass and they'll get knocked down and they'll get up and keep fighting. They'll get knocked down, they'll get up and keep fighting. But that's what we need. But for the concepts to be corrected, it must be put in context, as you said earlier. And logically, that can't be done in one class. This is why it's important for you to have roundtable and actually have people actually study the context and the historical context, so they'll understand the law, the difference between de jure, de facto, timeline, context, and above all, in personam jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction, territorial jurisdiction. I yield the floor. Have a good night.
And yes, Israel and I are working on a book. We're working on several books, but that's one of the books we're dealing with the contextual history. So yes, even looking at territorial jurisdiction.
Yes.
Let's go back to international law again.
There you go.
The foundation of territorial jurisdiction is territorial sovereignty. Exactly. Territorial sovereignty is a core principle of international law. There are elements of territorial sovereignty. Territorial jurisdiction comes from territorial sovereignty. So I can get more detail, but I just want to, because of time.
Look at this, Dooley. Now, looking at this, right? Now you can see why people are all riled up about ICE. Because all of these things come into play now, and it can't be ignored. Why? Because the economies of the big cities are collapsing.
I'm looking at us though, because we are the native people of the land. Because it centers. See, this is the issue here, that we've been under subjugation for over 200 years, and that subjugation did not begin with the United States,
right?
In different areas, all right. And so Spain and the Vatican and Spain, Great Britain / England and Portugal, they all have a hand. They all have a hand in our subjugation. United States has been tagged to maintain.
As a matter of fact, this is why I gave people the corporate,
and it's being administrated to that United States Constitution. The United States Constitution is where they're administrating the continuation of the conquest, colonization, because Spain, France, the Dutch, and England took over from the Dutch. The Dutch surveyed because the survey's a map in international law. Under conquest. Under conquest was known as acquisition of territory in international law. You have discovery, you have conquest, you have subjugation, you have colonization.
Yes.
All right. Under international law, you have two categories. You have the law of war and the law of peace. Under the law of war, you have what is known as acquisition of territory, loss of sovereignty. All right, they're tied. And so the United States has been maintaining, even to the point where by the United States is overseeing the Spanish land grants, the Spanish land grants that were granted to Spanish families and soldiers by the Spanish crown in the 15, 16, 1700s. The United States has set up what they call the Spanish Land Grant Office to oversee. Taj said administrator. I'm going to explain. He's right. I just want to be specific as to what he means by administrating. I just want to give example that United States Land Grant Office, Spanish Land Grant Office, administers the Spanish land grant that was granted by the Spanish crown through Spanish families and through Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, Utah. Those are quite a few Spanish land grants. So Taj is right. They're administering. I just want to give you details, because the details is key. Now, so that you can fix. So it's not where Taj is. Because I don't want them to leave by saying because we got to kill this, Taj. We got to kill this. It's too much of so and so said. It's too much of that.
Interjection, Dooley. Interjection. Include. As a matter of fact, I'll write up a section because of context, and include in your upcoming book the corporate papers of the United States, so they can look at their actual declaration, corporate operations of administering and keeping letters and records. That's very clear of their own documents.
But let me address that though. All right, let me address that in this manner. France did not deal with that entity. No. Let's look at the treaty. I'm just going to the contract. I'm just going to the contract. Let's go to the contract. Yeah. The treaty, the Louisiana Purchase Treaty.
Yep.
Between United States and France.
Yep.
France this is very important, my brothers and sisters.
Yes.
The only entity that has the obligation, because it's very important, you understand that France, the French subjects became citizens of the United States. They was incorporated. So the France did not deal with that entity that Taj is talking about.
Right.
They didn't deal with no new United States. Great Britain did not deal with in 1783. See what I'm doing, y'all? The 1783 Definitive Peace Treaty between Great Britain and the United States.
Yep.
Great Britain did not deal with the United States. We're talking about the 1818 treaty, treaty between Spain and the United States, where Spain relinquished west of Florida. So you got existing land boundary cession treaties. All right, because you have different cities, particularly in New York State. You got different cities under the Duncan pattern. Under the Duncan, Thomas Duncan, who was governor of the Providence of the Colony of New York. Yes. All right, Duncan pattern. They're under the Duncan pattern, 300-year-old pattern. Thomas Duncan, Dungon. Thomas Duncan. There were cities that were established under the Duncan pattern. So you gotta understand. So what entity? So you guess it's very important. So this new United States, Great Britain didn't do this new United States. So this is that you see where I'm going. My brother and sister. This is very important of what I'm saying.
To understand jurisdictional issues.
Absolutely.
And lack thereof.
You see, I'm being detailed. See how detailed I am?
Yes. Now, and even when you're dealing with Duncan, etc., right? And when people really understand that, how to look at things, they can understand why certain mayors, just like the mayors in New York, why they're making certain arguments, jurisdictional arguments relative to ICE that appear to be separate jurisdictions, because they're looking at it that way. How do you say? From on one hand, they'll look at the independent jurisdictions of the state's sovereignty. Then they'll look at the treaties that have not been taught to the people. And then they're looking at separate jurisdictions, even from the states with the cities in different counties that they don't teach to the general public, which caused a lot of this controversy in the background that's talked about in back offices that are going on currently. And this is, again, why a lot of these things are not comprehended when people see these things taking place.
This is important because we have to understand the politics of our land. And it doesn't begin with the United States.
Exactly.
You know, the United States was transferred territorial sovereignty, and being transferred territorial sovereignty, there's obligations on behalf of the United States, because United States have to look after, once again, those French subjects. You also have the Guadalupe Treaty, between United States of Mexico and the United States. There's an option clause. There's an option clause in whereby the Mexican nationals had 1 year to decide whether to remain Mexican nationals or become United States citizens. California, Nevada, you name it. Yep. If they did not, they did not notify the Mexican government in that 1 year time, under ex post facto, the mere operational law, under the mere operational law tied to the treaty, they would become signed United States citizens. Those Mexicans are not through immigration, not through naturalization. Hold on, let's go to the treaty. Let's look at the treaty. It's not through immigration, not through naturalization, through the Guadalupe Treaty.
Exactly. Now, and this is back to the what I'm interjecting, Dooley. Now, remember the last reincorporation of the United States, Florida, in 1925, after they went bankrupt again. That's why Florida. Now, this is the problem that they're having, because they've been telling the people in the mainstream news, talking like Mexicans are aliens, when many of them, not by immigration. See, this what makes it difficult for this so-called ICE. You see the conflict? Now, so people need to know the context, because they're assuming one thing and it ain't what they think it is. So the Immigration Act that Ulysses Grant corrupted doesn't apply across the board.
Doesn't apply to the Mexicans. The Immigration Act does not. And the Immigration Act does not apply to the Mexicans who are United States citizens through the Guadalupe Treaty.
Thank you. So people's concepts are wrong for the most part. But by them not teaching the real history, it's come back to bite them right now. That's the other point, because the very same contextual facts, some of which you're sharing right now, must be taught in the public schools, and you know they're not going to do that.
Well, we're teaching it, so we're doing what we can.
You know they ain't going to do it.
We're doing what we can.
But we have to do it to protect our people, because we're.
Oh yeah, we got protect the existence of our people. We got to protect the existence of our people. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway,
yep. Well, we're going 3 hours, Taj, and I know Hank is ready to go night. Brother Hank, I appreciate you, brother, for giving us this extra hour. All right, Brother Terrence. Greatly, this has been broadcast on, as well as on the Moroccan Post Media YouTube page. Once again, to get my book, Moors and Masonry Part 1, go to moorsandmasonry.org. Taj Tarik Bey is the reason for this book. As I once again, Moors and Masonry is his title. That was a feature article in the 2001 autumn edition of the Moroccan Star newspaper. All right. Time 10:02. Terrence, text me. We're about to end. Peace, everyone. Peace. Let me contact. All right. Peace.
Peace.